Scott Martin. I'm a state senator from the 13th Senatorial District, representing the southern half and eastern portions of Lancaster County and the southwest corner of Berks County. Um, a brief career timeline, coming out of college, I was able to play a little professional football for a little while and then I used to train in the off season, working with juvenile delinquents and dependents and running the county's detention and shelter care program. It was a county government agency, and probably the most truthful I can be is wasn't really too fond of the county commissioners at the time and my bosses, and you know ended up running against some of them, and got in, served 2 terms as a Lancaster County commissioner, and in 2016 was encouraged to run for the Pennsylvania State Senate. So I'm about to enter my 8th year in the Senate. And this past year, going into year 7, my colleagues elected me to be their majority appropriations chairman. So now part of Senate leadership. Ingrained in almost every single thing that we do here. It's our number one sector, especially when you combine food manufacturing and production. When you talk about tourism in Lancaster County, you can't go too much further and realize that our agricultural community plays a huge part in our tourism industry, what people want to come to see here. And of course, being one of the number one retirement communities in the country, a lot of people want to be here because they want to be amongst the rolling farmland and the amazing food and things like that. So, but, I also recognize that, I think we're the 10th in terms of 10th largest county in the country in terms of cows. We are 4th largest when it comes to layer hens. And that's a pretty big deal when you talk about Lancaster County's agricultural impact, not just in Pennsylvania, but well beyond in our national and the global marketplace. And so to be able to represent an area like that and to work with the industry in terms of what their needs are here in Lancaster County, some of the challenges they may have, whether it's dealing with transportation on roads with tractors, all the way to the really serious situations of like avian influenza outbreaks, or even in terms of a lot of the pressures a lot of our farmers feel because of clean water mandates and nitrogens and phosphorus in water, and what we can do and what I could do with my colleagues to help them in terms of alleviating that and helping and standing with our farmers in order to help address those problems. I think that probably one of the biggest moments recently has been dealing with the avian influenza that had broken out in many different states, seeing the reaction that occurred by other states and how they look at eggs and poultry coming from Pennsylvania. I mean, it was a real potential crisis, and it was a growing crisis. And to be able to partner with Penn Ag, local industry, local farmers, local officials, to try to come up with the necessary resources to really be an advocate with the Department of Agriculture and the governor's office to really get them on board and be a solid partner in making the improvements that were being recommended to make this work and get everything under control. To me, that was huge, and of course, that really helped. And when we go and fight for the appropriations to support those efforts, and to be able to have another award of $25 million, not only to support our efforts right now, and knock on wood that as we see other states grappling right now, that it might be a matter of time before it pops up again here. We also want to be prepared for the future and engaged in more strategic, long-range discussion with all our partners in ag, and how we can be more specific or more strategic in preparing in the future, and how we mobilize equipment, people, and other resources, testing kits, so that we can respond as fast as possible. That was pretty exciting for me to be a part of. When you're in that moment and you can see what this potential devastation means to so many people, personally or even economically in our area and across the state and beyond, there was a sense of urgency. And I think people really came together, and we built the right partnerships. I give credit to the Shapiro administration too, and being a good partner in this. And it's something, it's, again, I like using the term, it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint, because we always need to be prepared. We can't just forget about it and, send back all the equipment to the other side of the state, or, let's not fund certain things. We need to stay on top of this and be ready in the event that something, you hope it doesn't happen, but you're prepared that it does. The other one to me was, we had a really, had to change the viewpoint of how people looked at the clean water issue in PA. It was very tough when you just talk about it from the Chesapeake Bay perspective, because a lot of people don't have connections to the Bay. But, Senator Yaw and I, and we got Senator Laughlin involved from up in Erie. Once we started to talk about clean water in general across Pennsylvania and what its impacts were for our citizens, for our families, our communities, our industries, that's where we really started to make a lot of inroads in putting that on the priority map in Pennsylvania, and hopefully keeping it there, because that's all intricately tied into our future efforts of funding clean water and the agricultural conservation assistance program. So I sense we've got a lot of momentum. I want to keep that momentum going. I want to keep those big alphabet agencies working together to deploy all that money to the ground as fast as they can to help the locals. And so far, people have bought into that. And so that's been, in my mind, a pretty big win as well, along with the avian influenza assistance. Since a kid, I probably, whether it was going to school or playing sports, I also played with kids who grew up on a farm. And I may not have grown up on a farm myself, but in a weird way, you living here in Lancaster County, you almost feel like you're part of the ag community in a kind of ironic way. And so, for me, I always have that passion of preserving what that means to our cultural heritage, what it means to our economy. And that's why I have a passion about it. And so when I see challenges that are out there that are facing our community, pretty much our ag community knows my door, whether I was a county commissioner or whether now in the state senate. I'm here to be a partner with them, a supporter of them, a cheerleader for them, because of what they mean, not only to Lancaster County, but to the Commonwealth. Penn Ag and our ag community in general, especially coming from where I live here in Lancaster County, are just been an intricate part of my jobs that I've had to do over the years in public service. And the one thing I can always rely on with Penn Ag is if I ever need answers where they're at on an issue or how does this impact the agricultural community, I know I can call up Chris or anyone on the team and they'll give me an answer. They've been very supportive. They come to us when there's things that we may not be seeing and put it on our radar. And hopefully that feeling's mutual, that they know they can walk in the door and if they need help with something, I'm going to be there for them. And as one of the top industries in Pennsylvania and what it means to us, and being an elected official who, I keep talking about the fact that Pennsylvania needs to grow economically, Pennsylvania needs to grow demographically, and more importantly, that takes thriving business and job creation. That takes families wanting to live here and support themselves here and plant their roots here. And so I know I have a great partner in Penn Ag, and I can't say thank you enough for the work that they do in our community, and just so very appreciative to have them as a partner to try to make Pennsylvania a better place.